Good morning, everyone, and welcome to today's webinar, How to Create Promotions That Make a Difference by David Betke. Today, you are listening using your computer speaker system by default. You'll have the opportunity to submit questions to David by typing them into the questions pane on the control panel, and David will answer these at the end of the presentation. To give a brief introduction on today's presenter, David Betke is the principal of Do Better Marketing, a division of APPA Brand Management Inc., a full-service promotional marketing agency that helps clients to find their difference, improve their pitch, and provide a moving parts of the campaign to promote magic. He is dedicated to helping those who give back make a bigger difference. Betke's campaigns have thus far helped save a 65,000-acre forest, reduce carbon emissions in a city measurably, and helped recruit 3 senior-level engineers during the height of the labour crisis. One campaign even generated a 4,000% return within 6 months and recruited a couple of lifelong customers. Betke has personally been recognised with 7 national marketing awards for his work. Now, before I hand this presentation over to David, I would like to mention, unfortunately, he's just recently lost power, so his internet might be a little sketchy as he's hotspotting off his phone, but please hang in there, and if it is unclear, please submit a question or just let us know by just typing something in the control pane, and then that way David can repeat himself or should it not be clear. I will now hand this over to David.
Hi everyone, I'm Dave, and I'm going to turn off my video and go straight into the presentation, and I'll turn it on at a couple of times during the presentation for questions. So just some housekeeping. There's a copyright notice on this. Please note I've created the materials for this presentation. They are copyrighted. Distribution is prohibited without written consent. The Australian Promotional Products Association has permission to utilize the PowerPoint in their educational purposes. So getting that out of the way. Okay, our goal today is for first to share a repeatable process we can use to create campaigns that make a difference, to show ideas of how to use promotional products creatively at key points in the campaign, and how to focus your clients on purpose instead of price. On the agenda, we're going to start with my story, and it started with saving that 65,000-acre forest, and a couple of case studies, our process, and then how we apply our process. So essentially a case study of how we apply the process, and then Q&A in a couple of places throughout. So I'm just going to play a video for a bit. This is the best way I can tell my story, I think, because it needs some visuals.
Hi, David. It's Ida.
Yes.
There doesn't appear to be any sound on the video.
Oh, okay. Fair enough. Let's see. Well, I think the best way to do it then is I'm going to just wing it and tell my story.
Thank you.
Okay. So without the visuals. So essentially, in 1990, there was an endangered temperate interior rainforest, one of the last great stands of its type anywhere on the planet. And it had been slated to be clear-cut logs. Now, if you don't know what clear-cut logging it is, it's basically cutting down every tree in a forested area. And at that time, it was the community got out on the road, and there was a large roadblock. To that point, it was the largest roadblock in Canada's history. There were children and grandchildren and parents out on this roadblock, and reluctant RCMP officers who had grown up in the community going up to people saying, you know, to Grandma Ethel, I'm so sorry, Ethel, I have to arrest you. And Ethel, you know, saying, I know it's your job, but this is my job too, because I really need this beautiful forest to be saved forever. This forest is very important to my grandchildren. So There was a lot of negative things going on in the press at that time. And of course, the press looks for the, most sensationalistic things. They, of all the peaceful protests, all they saw was the one hippie up the tree and the logger at the bottom of the tree that said that he was going to cut the tree down. And, it started to polarize people. And I thought, there's a better way to use my specific talents. So what I did is I designed a number of cheeky t-shirts and some serious ones, some of the cheeky ones here. There goes the neighborhood acid rain. And I set out across the country, and I would go to universities and colleges. In all, I crossed Canada a dozen times, and I would go to a university or a college for 1 week, and I would set up with my t-shirts, and I would sell the t-shirts and stickers and magnets, and I have a petition there. And in the evenings, I would go on to stores and I would say, I can bring a new demographic into your store, and I can shamelessly promote you for a week while I'm at my table if you just carry these shirts wholesale, you carry the petition, letter writing campaign, and the point of sale posters that we created for them. And that way I was able to pick up 180 stores nationwide, selling the t-shirts, funding me on to the next college or the next university, and sending petition signatures and a letter writing campaign back to the BC provincial government. And to make a long story short, now there's a provincial park there. It's a 65,000 acre provincial park that will be saved forever. As a result of, t-shirts and stickers and promotional products, right? And as I was passing through, I met my wife in a city as I was going through one of the cities, my soon-to-be wife, and started, basing more of my time, obviously, there, I started being approached by a number of companies to start printing their t-shirts. So I'd print their t-shirts, and then festivals asked me to print t-shirts. So I started printing their t-shirts, and pretty soon I was this very successful t-shirt company, but there was something missing because all I was doing is printing t-shirts and creating, promotional products and selling stuff. And I wasn't making the kind of impact I had on the road. With the park. So what I did is I started asking clients if I could start implementing some of the lessons that I'd learned on the road, and implement them with their promotions, and instead of just giving away stuff, creating campaigns around it. And we were able to win 7 consecutive national marketing awards by doing this, and all for good causes. And soon after, just before we won the park, I had went through Calgary, and the chancellor of the University of Calgary heard my story and introduced me to the guy on the left. You probably know who that is. It's Mikhail Gorbachev. So I got to spend a fair amount of time talking to Gorbachev, which was quite the story, but that's another story. And then I was blessed by this guy, His Holiness the Dalai Lama. So, I guess I was pretty burnt out after all those years, actually 5 consecutive years on the road. And well, that was some recharging. So that's my story. So hands up, who wants to make a difference? Type yep in your chat box. And we'll get started here. So any questions at this point? Just a real quick break so I can have a little sip of water. Okay, let's begin. So I want to start with our mantra. We must have an honest intent to help our customers make a difference. If we are motivated solely by self-interest, we are not serving our customers, and the promotion will likely fail, or the campaign will likely fail. And I want you to really, really internalize that, because it's all about making a difference and helping them make a difference. And their customers will see it. And instead of being treated like a vendor, you'll start being treated as a partner by the customers that you have. So let's go into a couple of case studies here. The first one was for the Alberta Council of Women's Shelters. And now they contacted us to provide a giveaway to 500 business leaders. They had a $6 budget it was a $12 budget per individual, and they wanted a $12 giveaway to all these leaders, and we said no. Simply no. We said there's a better way. Let's make sure that what you are investing, you actually have some returns and you have some ROI, you have or a return on objective as well. So the goal of this particular promotion was to help make up for the gap in funding between what the government was providing women's shelters and what was actually needed on the ground. So we asked who would be receiving this promotion and where. We did some research and we decided to go with the following. But first of all, it was for a number of male business leaders at a breakfast event, and we were talking, the Women's Shelter, Alberta Council of Women's Shelters was asking them to help make up for some deficiencies in funding, and B, to try to help identify women at risk in their workplaces. So what we did is, instead of, a $12 giveaway, we took that budget and we created this little fourfold card. And on the cover, we had a magazine style cover. The Breakfast with the Boys was the name of the event. And we had a photo, as you can see, of the sun shining over the Earth from space. And all the facts in here are about light. Light travels at approximately 300,000 kilometers per second. It takes X amount of time for the light from Earth from the sun to get to the Earth. And then when they opened it up, this was the only promotional product. This was the anchor. It was a little flat flashlight that they could actually fix to the back of their cell phones before cell phones had flashlights. And it simply said, now that we've shared some facts about light, let's shed some light on the facts. And when they open this up, it says, in the time it takes light to reach our eyes from the sun, 9 women in Canada will be assaulted by an intimate partner. In the time it takes for light to travel to the Earth and be reflected back to the sun, a child in Canada will be physically or sexually assaulted by a family member. In the time it takes our planet to revolve around the sun, 13,000 women and children will be assisted by Alberta's shelters. An equal amount will be turned away. And when they opened this up, they were shown the resources that they could use to either donate or to get information on setting up these programs within their businesses to identify women at risk. Now, this was so successful that it was repeated in 2 other jurisdictions that summer, in Calgary and then just north of Edmonton, and then was awarded federal funding to enclose with a case study for 41 other shelters nationwide. Our clients, in our clients' words, we have an uncanny ability to take a key message and merge it with a unique visual focus to make a pitch that can be unforgettable. Several years later, it was really interesting. A former guest noted that every time he sees that darn little flashlight, he's reminded of how those facts changed his thinking. Now, if we would have just put that flashlight on that table at that breakfast for the boys, how long do you think that would have lasted? Maybe, it would have been thrown in a desk drawer. Maybe it would have been affixed, but it probably wouldn't have lasted, and it would not have made that much of an impact. But this way, it made a substantial impact. Just some more kind words. The second case study I want to talk about is a company with amazing corporate social responsibility. They're an engineering firm, and what they did was they would send employees over to an area in Ethiopia, and they would identify need. So they identified that this area needed a bridge because school children and people were going miles and miles and miles out of their way just to get water, and then go to a bridge miles away to come back and miles back to their village. So they built a bridge. They built a school. They built a water treatment plant. So what they would do is they would send the employees over. They would identify need. And then when they came back, they would fundraise, and then the company would match funds, and then they would go over and they would build it. An amazing company. And the most amazing thing, they never even talked about it. It was buried on their website. So they did it for the right reasons. It was nothing to do with PR. So I was summoned into the office of the CEO and said, we need to attract 2 senior engineers to Canada. This was during the height of a labor crisis. And we're setting up a meet and greet at Canada House in London, England, Great Britain. And we are going to be competing with a number of other firms who are going after this talent. It happened that there was a number of engineers that came to this, and they wanted to differentiate. Now, a number of their competitors were giving away swag. They were giving away cowboy hats and things like that, which, you know, it doesn't make that much of an impression, and it gets forgotten very quickly. So what we did is we did some research around what the preconceptions of these people would be of Canada. And a lot of the preconception was Canada's full of nature and open spaces. And so we started with that, and there were 3 main cities, Vancouver, Calgary, and Edmonton, that they wanted to recruit into. So what we did is we took this photo of this lone highway coming into the Rocky Mountains, and on the other edge, we put a map of the 3 cities and 3 maple leaves kind of flying over those cities. And we had them imaged onto leather. And then we took that leather and we created a photo album cover out of it and put a photo album inside. And in the first slot of the photo albums, it was, you know, an introduction. Please accept this limited edition genuine leather photo album, commissioned by ABA to hold your most treasured memories. We sincerely hope that some of those memories will be created by joining the ABA family in Canada. So what we hoped is they would fill the photo album with their memories after they came. So the album was filled with photos of different places within an hour, hour and a half drive from those main cities. This one's in Banff. And activities, camping around Banff and Canmore, and interspersed with testimonials of people who had come to Canada from abroad before. So, you know, what Canada was like and what it was to work with this really amazing company. And on the back page of the photo album, we had this little web key, which launched a website with, you know, similar graphics. And it was the most important thing, the enablement resource is what we called it. So it gave them everything that they would need to make a decision with their family, because this is not a decision you're lightly going to make to, you know, pull up roots and move to Canada. So it was everything about professional accreditation, taxation, schooling, real estate, everything that they could possibly want to know to enable them to make that decision. And then on the back of the back cover, we put a luggage tag as a subtle call to action. Now, 12 people came to that event, and 7 actually came for interviews to my client in Canada. They hired 3. They wanted 2. They said the depth of the talent was so great, they actually hired 2, or 3 rather. It made national and regional press, and won another national marketing award for us. So let's start talking about process and how asking the right questions leads to greater success and deeper loyalty. The right questions show you actually care about the success of your customers, not just the sale. So starting to make a difference, we'll start with our process, and it's a 12-step process. The steps don't change with technology. They don't change with social media. They're the same. So step one is always the goal. You have a goal you have to have a goal to know if you were successful in your campaigns. So you have to know what they're trying to achieve, and to be raising awareness, getting your name out there, creating buzzer impressions, or getting more likes are just too broad. We want to save a specific forest, reduce CO2 emissions, recruit 3 senior engineers. We want to increase our trade show traffic by 17%, whatever it is. Make that goal as specific as possible. But besides being specific, it has to be obtainable. Ending family violence is unfortunately an unlikely goal with a promotion. However, attracting enough funding to keep a women's shelter funded for another year is obtainable. So make that goal obtainable. And besides being specific, measurable, or obtainable, it needs to be measurable. When you're able to measure how your input at key points in a campaign got people to listen and act on your client's goals, then you have a client for life. They're not just after the transaction. They're coming back to you constantly because they know that you can deliver. So first of all, we need to establish KPIs, and a KPI is a key performance indicator. You need to agree with your client on the metrics of success. So you may start with increasing likes and engagement on social media, or attracting more people to their booth at an event. These can be set and measured. You can then graduate, such as attracting segmented and qualified leads, measuring direct action, or hitting sales and recruitment benchmarks, and making those, again, very specific, obtainable, and measurable. So now that you have a goal, you need an audience. Who are you going to reach, and who's going to help you reach that goal, and who's going to stand in your way? Who does your client need to influence to help them reach their goal? Who are the positive allies and advocates? And who will resist their success? Now, it's very important to understand who will resist their success, because you have to plan that into a really successful campaign, and being able to pivot when you get resistance, and being able to respond to that resistance. Now, step 3 is the journey. And the journey is, now that you have a goal and you know who you need to reach, you need to step into their shoes and anticipate all the steps in their journey, beginning at awareness and culminating in action. So what did they need to be able to act? In the case of the recruitment tools, they needed to know about taxation and real estate, and they needed to know what it was like to move to Canada and how difficult it would be, what the transition would be like. Now that's on a broader scale, but on a pare that down. What are you asking the target audience to help you accomplish? That's back to that goal, remember? What is the first step you need them to take? How about the next? Can you map it all out all the way to success? So the first step may be awareness on social media, getting them aware of what your client's trying to do. The next step after that is maybe to get them to sign up to a newsletter or an email list, and so on and so forth. So map that journey all the way to success for your client. And what are the obstacles they may face, or friction points that may keep them from taking action? So talk to your client about that. What are those friction points? And as I'm saying this, this is how you can start charging $300, $400, $500 an hour for your time as well as the product. So the message is step 4. So now you have a journey mapped out. Now we have to start filling in our framework, and that starts with reaching them with the what and the why. Audiences aware of the need to help and make them want to help. First of all, in a great message is make it real. Transform the abstract into the concrete. And I think the best way to do this is to show you an example of how we did it. Now, we were approached by the city of Edmonton to help in messaging to get people to stop watering their lawns less during a drought. And they wanted them to stop watering after watering a half inch or 10, 12 millimeters of water. But that's such an abstract concept. When you're turning on a sprinkler, how do you know when you've watered a half inch or 12 millimeters of water? So what we did is we took a Frisbee and we printed instructions on the Frisbee about the initiative, and said basically, turn this Frisbee over. It was that simple. It was taking that abstract, making it real. And promotional products do that in such an amazing way. And if anybody wants to use that, you're free to use that idea to reduce water consumption. Make it personal. Make the message human. Help them see through your client's eyes. Help them envision what success could look like. How does it affect them? When you talk about water, it's really important how it affects them. Why should they care? You should reduce your footprint because we all need to do our part. Now that's so abstract. It says nothing to anybody, but changing that message and saying, with more extreme weather comes more disasters, which will directly impact your home insurance rates. See what you can do to keep your rates down. Now that's something that impacts me. I want to see what I can do to keep my rates down. What do I do? So there's some things, and you can even get more specific than that. Step 5 is the vehicle. Now the vehicle is how to get attention. How are you going to deliver that message to that? Remember your audience, the ones who will reach them where they gather. Make or break the message. Make sure yours doesn't contradict what you're saying. For instance, we had an environmental cause that was sending out heaps and heaps of virgin pulp, and that message really contradicted, or the medium really contradicted their message, and they got a lot of blowback from that. So we went in there and we said, we need to change things a bit. And promotional products are an amazing vehicle, again, to deliver that message. Now, different audiences may require different messaging and different vehicles. You may have seniors who basically want direct mail or want something tangible to read, whereas you might have Gen Z or millennials that would rather read it digitally. Everybody likes a promotional product of some kind, but be very careful that it doesn't contradict the message, that the medium does not contradict the message. Now the hook. The hook is the promotional product. How do we get them hooked on that message? How do we get them to read that message? Because there's 6,000 messages aimed at every audience, every person, every day. We're just bombarded by messages. So there has to be something that makes that message break through. Promotional products, in my opinion, there's nothing in the world like a promotional product to break through that clutter and get that message right to the person that needs to see it. Now the hook, once you've hooked their attention with the product, That's just gives you enough goodwill for them to begin listening to your story. But you're already created that in the planning stage during the journey. The story, again, that was back to the Alberta Council of Women's Shelters, the story about, you know, this is how many individuals are impacted by family violence, but putting it into a story form, because fact after fact after fact, negative facts, people just turn off. So if you can turn it into a story form and, you know, bring some metaphors in there, it's really more likely to stick. Now, the purpose of the story is to get them personally invested. A good story showcases a problem that needs to be overcome or illustrates how the problem affects them personally. It clearly describes a vision of what the solution could be. It helps them envision themselves at a successful conclusion to that story. So now you've got them invested in the story, invested in the cause, or invested in the process. Now you have to ask them to do something. And that's your CTA, or your call to action. If you're going to be successful, you have to ask your client's audience to do something, as I just said. That is the call to action you'll have created with your journey. Now, that's part of the journey. All of these steps are within that custom. And the next step is empowerment. Now, empowerment is very important. I can't emphasize how critical this step is. It literally can make or break a campaign or a promotion. It can turn it in from a expense where they'll never come back to an amazing success where they're yours for life. So empowerment is so important. The path has to be clear for them to take action, and the empowerment in the the Council of Women's Shelters ones was, you know, basically showing them how they could act, what they could do, how they could set up processes to identify women at risk in their businesses with the EBA, or the senior engineers. It was all about the empowering them to make that decision to move. So giving them everything that they need for resources to make that decision easy and to make success easy. The next step is engagement. They know their path, they see the steps. Now we just need to continue their initial excitement, and that's really important, that initial excitement. Incentives are great along the way, and incentives, of course, there's nothing like a promotional product as a carrot to keep people working towards a goal. Step 11 is recognition. Now, recognition is very important. You have to recognize your champions to make sure that they continue to be invested and they continue to recruit others. Some people always do more than others, like the old tug-of-war analogy. It's time to recognize heroes and keep them motivated. Who to recognize? Of course, your advocates, your volunteers, and all of your champions. So you're constantly recognizing those individuals and keeping them engaged and motivated towards that broader goal. Results, of course, this is paramount. Being able to show that how you worked with your client made the difference, and that you are the person that can make a difference to getting those real tangible results. So you have to be able to measure them. Now, you have to reveal success against your key performance indicators that you agreed on at the beginning. You should provide insights. For instance, as you go along, you'll learn from how people are reacting. You'll get more data, and a good promotion is very cyclical, actually. You learn, and then you have more inputs, and as you gather more and more data and more appropriate data, you actually can create better and better promotions. So, you know, your first stab at it, you may have an incremental, increase in sales or whatever that KPI is. And as you go, it will get better and better and better. And identify pivot points. So, you know, if you've made an assumption, either yourself or your customer has made an assumption that proves to be wrong, be able to pivot at that point and plan to where you're going to pivot to continue the engagement. So there's the process. Before I get on to a very specific case study showing step-by-step each point of the process, from goal, audience, journey, message, vehicle, hook, story, call to action, empowerment, engagement, recognition, and results. So right now I'm going to pause for a moment to see if there are any questions before we get into how to apply these specifically in a case study. So I'll wait for a wee bit to see if there's any questions, and Ida's standing by to see if there's any questions.
Hi, David. A question has been submitted. So the question is, in step 2 of the process audience, can you give examples of those that can resist the success in a campaign?
Oh, very much so, yeah. You know, a very, very obvious one was when we were trying to save the forest, we had a number of people in the forestry industry, which were definitely resisting. So what we did, and a lot of people would just say, well, you know, one wins, one loses. We don't like to do that. We like win-win situations. So what we did is we sat down with them because they're members of our community. They're people we grew up with. They just happen to work in the forest industry. They're friends and family. So what we did is we sat down and we said, what can we do that will work for everyone? Because at that point in time, it would have created a very small number of jobs for a very short amount of time, maybe a couple of years, and then it would have been decades before there was even, you know, a tangible tree farm, let alone a forest back there, you know, a living, breathing forest with endangered Selkirk caribou and things like that. So what we came up with was, if we can create this park and then selectively log the riparian zones or the area around the park, and then high grade that timber for sale for toy manufacturers and instrument manufacturers, eco-certified wood. So you're actually getting more money per square or per cubic meter of wood than you would have by just clear cutting it. And I'm very happy to say that over a quarter century later, there's still jobs in that mill, and there's still high grading, and there's a forest. So everybody wins, everybody won in that case. So that's where, you know, understanding who would resist, you know, on a day-to-day basis, you're always going to see that your client's competition obviously is a major resistance. So you want to understand the competition, and you want to be able to pivot or be able to know what they're offering, so you can position your client's promotion different than what the competition is saying. I hope that answers it.
Thanks, David. There doesn't appear to be any other questions, so I'll hand it back to you.
Okay, so we're going to get into applying the process now. So we were contacted by the city again with a very sizable budget for giveaways. We said no, of course. They wanted to, it was a pilot project in a neighborhood that had 2 or 3 exits. And we wanted to reduce CO2 reduction by getting people out of their cars. We wanted to reduce single passenger vehicle use. And they wanted a number of giveaways, but we wanted strategy behind it, and they agreed quite quickly. So here's what we did. So the goal was to reduce CO2 emissions by compelling individuals to reduce single passenger vehicle use by 100 kilometers each in 30 days. And what we needed to do is we needed to recruit them into what we called the Local Motion Challenge. And the audience was a very mixed demographic. And back to that goal was very specific and obtainable, as you can see, 100 kilometers per person in 30 days reduction. The audience was very, very mixed, a mixed demographic. It was an area with a lot of retired people, a lot of families, a lot of students, because it was quite close to the university. So there had to be really a mix of media to get to these people, because you know, obviously social media was not necessarily going to reach the elderly people and so on and so forth. So the journey here began with a mailer, and the mailer was printed on 100% post-consumer recycled paper with a little clip that had a fridge magnet on the back, reminding them to come in 1 month to the Local Motion launch party. But before they did that, they had to fill out this mileage log. Now, this mileage log had a toolkit and free bus passes incentives. So what they had to do is they had to record how many kilometers they drove in the month prior to the launch party. So we got a baseline from which to measure. Then there was a launch event, and that's where they would pledge to take part of this challenge. And within that, there was resources. There was a 30-day challenge, as I was talking about, including a game, mirror hangers, incentives, and prizes. And then at the end, there was a wrap-up party. So that was the journey. The wrap-up party, we would discuss how well the community did. We would recognize those champs, and we would invite the press, and that was the journey there. So the message is number 4. So the message was very simple: Park Ellen, commit to the local motion challenge. See how your local changes can add up. Now, there was going to be an international conference in the city that month. So we were also telling them, as they read through this, that, you know, the world's watching, and what we can do. So let's show the world what Park Ellen and the city of Edmonton can do. The vehicle. Now, the vehicle in this case was the thing that was delivered door to door, because we knew that would reach everyone, not necessarily, you know, seniors wouldn't necessarily read about it on social media. So this went to every single door by volunteers in the community. And the hook was that simple little fridge magnet little clip that was reminding people to stay engaged and to come pick up their free toolkit. And it told them in the vehicle here what they would get. So there's quite a bit there. A free bus pass, that, you know, is quite a large value. So people were inspired to come, and they showed up en masse to that party. Now the story, again, I think I got ahead of myself. The story was talking about it's a global initiative, that the world's watching, that there is a major international conference coming, and that we can show what we can do. We can showcase what we can do to the world. So that was the story. Now the call to action was simple. It was fill out your leader log before, come pledge at the party, and then fill it out the month later. Now, what we wanted to do to empower people was get the whole family involved. So we came up with an empowerment kit of course, everything was post-consumer recycled paper. And the resources inside here in the empowerment kit were everything that they would need to be successful. So of course their bus pass told them different ways of local motion, so walking, and it gave them ways to, there was maps, cycling maps and walking maps throughout the city, of course transit, carpooling, and a number of other things. So just giving them everything that they would need to be successful. And then there's the engagement piece, which was this, again, a fridge magnet, a very large fridge magnet. It was the local motion game. So what they would do is they would get X amount of points every day. They chose a different type of local motion. And then if they landed on that day where, for instance, it says bus, and they took the bus, they could put their numbers down, and then they compare who would win. And we made sure these went out to the schools, so the kids would engage the parents, and the kids would keep their parents honest here. Now, also, there was a hanger that would go on the rear view mirror of your car. And it was seeded paper, so when they were done with it, they could, of course, plant it, and it would sprout wildflowers. Now, if this hanger was spotted on your door, or sorry, on your mirror in a parked car for 2 days in a row, you were automatically given a number of different things, which we'll get to in the recognition, immediately as a prize. And you would be entered into a draw for several mountain bikes, and they were really quite nice mountain bikes. So it was quite an incentive. So what we also did, which I'll get to in a second, sorry, I'm gonna get ahead of myself. So in the recognition pieces, they got buttons, they got pedometers, these little flashing hangers that would go on backpacks or bikes, a water-powered calculator. So those were spot prizes to keep people engaged. Now the results were quite phenomenal. And one other way we were able to measure results is, as I had mentioned at the beginning, there were only 2 or 3 exits to this community. So we put down what we call cordon counters, the rubber strips across the road, and we knew how much traffic was going in the month before and how much was leaving in the month during the challenge. And there was a significant drop. And based on their leader logs, approximately 12% of the community participated in the challenge. Now, 12% may not sound great, but when you're looking at any marketing, anything better than 2% is pretty spectacular. So the average kilometer reduction was 400 kilometers per person. That was 4 times the target. Remember, the initial KPI, or the initial target, was 100 kilometers per person. We quadrupled that. Estimated CO2 reduction exceeded 4 metric tons. We won our 2nd consecutive National Marketing Award in green marketing that year for this, and we were recognized by the current and future mayors, one incoming, one outgoing mayor, for that promotion. So that's it. I think we're just in under the hour, 57 minutes, and I'm open to questions now.
A great presentation. Now, there doesn't appear to be any questions. However, if a question does come to mind after the presentation, you can email David, and his email address is info@dobettermarketing.com. I will include, oh, sorry, go ahead.
Either one, info or Dave.
Or Dave.
Yeah.
As it's shown on the screen. I will include that email address as part of the email you will receive tomorrow with a copy of today's recording.
And I hope I know I went really fast, but I was looking at the time. I tried to pack in as much as I could there. So I hope it's all okay.
No, it was a fabulous presentation. Thank you once again, David. Look, on behalf of David and APPA, thank you for joining us today, and I hope you all have a great afternoon. And David, for yourself, I hope you have a great evening.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Ida.
Thank you, and take care.
Okay, take care. Bye for now.